Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome to the Energy Management Forum. This is Harsha Vikramasinghe, President, Sri Lanka Energy Managers Association. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the members who have participated in our Energy Management Forum. Uh, Today we have a very interesting presentation on energy management systems ISO 50001 done by Mr. Ruwan Vijayman, a very experienced person. Without taking much of your time, I will invite our seminar secretary, Mr. Rasika Gamage, to give a brief introduction to Mr. Ruwan Vijayman. I hope you will gain a lot by attending to the Energy Management Forum today. And very unfortunately, we couldn't have a physical Energy Management Forum for a long period, but given the circumstances, we have no other way of meeting than the online method that we have used here. So hope you will enjoy the session and learn from Mr. Ruwan Vijayman. And please do not hesitate to raise any questions. He will be more than willing to help you with the better knowledge, because he's one of the most experienced energy auditors in our country. So over to Mr. Raska Kamagi to introduce Mr. Ruwan Vijayman to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha. Good evening, all of you, dear colleagues. Now we are heading our 35th Energy Management Forum on challenges and opportunities of implementing energy management systems, that is ISO 50001 in Sri Lankan industries. Actually, that our presenter is a well-known colleague, Mr. Ruwan Vijayman, is a product of University of Moratuwa, specialized in mechanical engineering, and over 10 years experience in energy management, and presently work as an energy expert in the national green production. Presentation will be 40 minutes, followed by 20 minutes Q&A session. You can raise questions through Q&A or through the chat, even during the presentation. We'll take up in the Q&A session. Over to you, Mr. Ruwan Vijayman, to conduct the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asika, for the introduction. Good evening to all of you. And thank you, Srima, for giving me this opportunity to share some of my experience gained in ENMS ISO 5001 Energy Management System. This is not a result of any kind of research, just kind of experience sharing. So today presentation, we will discuss basic introduction to the ENMS Energy Management System, and we will briefly go through system components for the benefit of the participants who are not that much familiar with the system. And we will see the present status of ENMS implementation briefly in global status and also the Sri Lankan context. And then we'll go to the today topic, challenges and opportunities of implementing ENMS. We can open the discussion like how we can go forward with implementing more ENMS and get more benefits. So entire entire energy system, we can take into this kind of quadrant. We need to know the background, and we always play in energy efficiency, either energy efficiency or renewable energy. But the standard is somewhat different place. We have touched all of these and somewhere to go to achieve more benefits. So first, we'll start from kind of a thing we all know and all familiar. We know energy audits, and I'm sure that most of participants are with more experience in energy auditing. So we'll see how energy audits are happening in not in Sri Lanka, all over the world. This graph represents the energy variation. We can say either energy baseline. This is the reference line. We know that most of industries, they have their own reference for energy consumption. Maybe specific energy consumption like kilowatt hour consumption per kilogram, or it may be cost reflective baseline. It may be like rupees cost of electricity per month, like that. So if they till they are within the baseline or comfort zone, they are not worry on energy management or energy efficient activity. Let's say one company, uh, that energy engineer or the engineering manager, uh, they believe that their energy baseline is 1 million rupee per month. That is definitely for electricity. Whenever the cost of electricity goes up than certain level, let's say whenever it goes more than 1.2 million, then they feel like they are facing some issues, or they are doing some wrong things in energy consumption. Then they try to solve those anomalies within the industry. If they cannot solve, then they call for energy research or outside consultants. Then they visit factory and they conduct walk through audit or minimum scope, maybe detailed audit, and they give a report with number of recommendations, and company implement recommendation. Then they can take back their energy uh, down to the baseline. They are happy, and they continue uh, with that happiness. And again, after some time period, they can experience their energy consumption or energy bill goes up. Again, they call for energy. That's how it is happening. This time period between two energy audits is varying, but most of companies it is 3 years, 4 years. And recently we did CV assessment for one very well-known food manufacturing industry. They have done their last energy audit in 2010, so they are time is 10 years. So in this process, what they are missing part is continual improvement and monitoring of implementation. So over long time period, like 5 years, 10 years, they are in same baseline, no continual improvement and no competitive gain over the time. That is we call ad hoc approach. Then if we see ENMS, energy management system, starting will be same. So whenever they feel like their energy, their industry is energy intensive and they pay a lot of money for energy, then they start with we call energy review, energy planning. That is different. We'll discuss later. That is a little bit different compared to an energy audit. Then all given activities and recommendations are categorized into like depending on the investment and business to implementation, likewise. I implement selected activities. Then those are followed by monitoring and evaluation. So they will not lose intended outcomes of implementation. So they can improve their system continually, and first 1 or 2 years they can implement low cost no cost implementation when they go for high level investments, and later those things are done with the support of other departments, internal departments like HR department, procurement department, design, engineering, maintenance. So all involved in the system, and they get continual improvement, and in the 3-4 years, all the company employees, they get familiarized with the system, and energy efficiency and energy management becomes their kind of company culture. So that baseline indicator will not come back to the initial baseline. So over the time period, they can gain maybe 15, 20. Later we'll show some showcase. They can reach up to 20% saving. That is continual improvement, and that is the difference between just ad hoc time approach and continual improvement, which is supported by ENMS. And if we see the system, the entire 50,000 family in single picture, we are focusing on this 50,001. That is the document given all requirements and guidelines for energy management system, and this is supported by other system documents like 50,002. It is for requirements and guidelines for energy audit, and 5003 is for application, 6 for baseline, 15 for measuring and verification. So likewise, there are other supportive documents, but we are mainly focusing on this ISO 5001 2018 document. And within 10 minutes, we will go through the entire system document. We will see what are the clauses, main clauses, and requirements raised by the system. Same as many other ISO systems, it follows the same chapter procedure, clause procedure, 10 main clauses, starting from scope and normative references, terms and definitions. All these first three are for the basic formalities. Scope describes the scope of ENMS document. Normative reference in ENMS, we don't have this content in this chapter. Terms and definition, all terms and words are described and explained used in ENMS, because here some differences we can see compared to normal day-to-day wordings, energy use. Here described a little bit different: energy consumption, energy performance indicators, significant energy users, variables, static factors. Likewise, there are some different terminologies are there, and all of them are described here. Then from chapter 4, real system content is starting, and continues to chapter 10. In this right side picture, you can see entire system content, starting from the context of the organization, defining the boundary and giving the scope. We play all ENMS within this boundary and considering only the defined scope. Starting from internal and external issues, those are the requirement, maybe legal requirement, and aiming to fulfill needs and expectations of interested parties and the company. Then all calculations and forecastings are starting in planning phase. Plan activities are implemented in support and operation phase. Then implemented activities are evaluated for their performance, and if there are any lapses, then improvement phase continuous improvement. This PDCA cycle continues. So then while continuing this PDCA cycle, we can get intended outcomes of energy management system. If we just quickly go one by one, context of the organization, we know even in energy audit, before the audit, we define boundary because we cannot address all the physical areas, and we define scope. Not hard in many applications, but some cases there are companies who are sharing same transformers, who are sharing same compressor and boilers. So in such situations, we have to clearly define boundaries, and those are for energy boundaries. Here we need to identify energy types of energies and energy use at the boundary. So we need to clearly define those things. And then the leadership, we can say compared to 2011, because ISO 5001 first release occurred in 2011 and revision was released in 2018. Compared to 2011 version, here we can see more weight to leadership. Leadership, the commitment from the leadership is highlighted more than 2011 version, and more responsibilities are given to leadership. He can, because without commitment of the top management or leadership, we cannot continue, because these are long-term system implementation and take time to implement and also take times to stabilize. So continual support from top management is much needed. Support may be by means of that providing required resources and giving authorities likewise. So those commitment can be demonstrated by publishing energy policy for the company. That is the base foundation of the system. Then defining energy management team and giving responsibilities for each and every team members, clear responsibilities, such a way leaders can demonstrate their commitment, and that demonstration should be documented, and all required documentations are mentioned in the system document. Then energy planning. We can say energy planning is the brain of the system, because this is the more key part of system implementation. Here, as we say, we can start from internal and external issues. Actually, how we identify those things by referring history data, maybe referring energy types and past and current energy use and the consumption. So based on this data, we can identify how the tariff behaving and how energy total consumptions are varying likewise. So collected data then analyzed. By analyzing, we we are expected to come up with specific terms like significant energy use. That means key energy use, identifying key energy users of the facility. Then identifying energy performance indicators. It means most of the cases total energy consumption does not reflect the actual energy consumption. So we relate the total energy consumption with a kind of driver that may be production or service output, whatever the output. So we relate energy consumption with that service or product output. Then we can develop energy performance indicators, and as a one output of energy planning, we get activity plan, and also we define energy baseline, energy objectives, targets. All of these outputs are taken from energy planning. Energy planning, for this part, we call it as energy review. We can say it is more or less equal to energy audit, but energy audit, the technical depth is high, but energy review depth is compared to audit low, but scope is very much high compared to energy audit. So time consuming for energy review is higher than energy audit most of the case. Then a little bit more about energy planning. We can use any kind of energy related data as inputs for energy planning, maybe single line diagram, energy flow diagram, and history data. These are some examples for relating history energy consumption data with driver like production. We need to concern on this factor relationship factor among two parameters like energy and production. So likewise, we analyze this data. Then this is how we identify significant energy users. In energy audits, we do end user profile. Same way we can do end user profile. Here, the system requests to conduct kind of systematic analyze to define cutoff mark to identify key or significant energy users, maybe energy users who are cumulatively consumed 80% of total energy consumption, or maybe 90% of total energy consumption, likewise. So we make them in order from highest to lower and get the cumulative sum, and we can plot the graph, and we can define cutoff line, and below cutoff line we see like significant energy users. Identifying significant energy users is very much important, because all most of other activities are related to these significant energy users, not just identifying machine, but it is energy consumption and operator's competence and machines operational control parameters. Like that, we go more details of this significant energy user. That is important. Then we need to define energy baseline. baseline defining, we define baseline for the company, and also we can compare with national baselines like SLSE has published energy consumption benchmark analysis. Some cases we can use this national baseline, especially for tea sectors, since the baseline was defined by considering many sample factors. So most of the case for tea sector it works, but other sectors for different as reference value we can use these publications. These are some examples. As one output of energy planning, we need to develop action plan. Action plan, just developing this action plan or that activity list is not enough. We need to categorize or prioritize all activities based on companies. The companies are free to define their prioritization parameters, but they have to consider initial investment, easiness of implementation, other benefits like environment and social benefits, simple payback period, like that. They can define their own categorization or prioritization metrics. So, for identifying energy saving opportunities or activities to improve energy efficiency, uh, energy reviewers or company can use inspection data, measure data, interview data, like that. Kind of data. Then planning phase, that is the phase which take more time in the system implementation. Then we can move to the support phase. Support phase, that means once identify implementation activities, then company needs support from many departments to get the maximum benefit of that implementation. So we need to consider resources, maybe human resource, physical resource, financial resource. Especially in human resource, we need to consider the competence level of employees, workers, and technician engineers who are engaging in activities of significant energy use. For most of industries, we see boilers, air compressors, and some process equipment as significant energy users. So we need to check whether the operator is competent enough to operate that significant energy user at adequate energy efficiency, because companies their intention is to operate machine without maybe fail or continue the production. So they are not they forget about the energy efficiency, but the system request to check uh, and set up the competence level. So company no legal requirements, but company can start from somewhere and they can focus for somewhere. So maybe educational qualification can be defined as competence, and education plus experience and other professional certifications may be considered. Whatever the set competence that should be met. So there are gaps, the company can send them for trainings like that. Then that is for competence. Then awareness, that is not only for the significant energy users related technicians or people. Beyond that, awareness should be considered for entire employees in the facility, different levels, maybe general awareness for entire workforce and technical awareness for the EMS team, and specific technical awareness for program for energy manager like well. Then communication channels should be clearly defined depending on the material or the message you are going to communicate. Maybe simple web publication or notice board or public addressing, it may be different. There are different channels to communicate, so those should be clearly defined, and everything should be documented. Shall be documented. Everything specific required documentations are mentioned in the system. Document that is not the physical hard copies, but even with some Excel sheets, you can manage entire system. Then operation, uh, implementing ENMS supported by operation. Operation mean most of the case practice they are familiar with SOPs, standard operating procedures. We can simply slightly adjust those SOPs to fulfill the ENMS requirement. Normally SOPs, the standard operating procedures, those are addressing the basic operation, the focusing safety of the equipment and the process likewise. Here we add some energy related parameters to SOPs like cutting pressure, cutoff pressure, the surface temperature, previous temperature, feed water temperature, flow rates likewise. And they should be clearly mentioned and communicated to operators to get the benefit, because we know one very good example is implementation of PSP drivers in T-sector withering truck. That is technically we can do, they can get 40%, 50%, 60% saving after implementation of PSP, but there's no automatic control. What I have seen most of the case, there are three settings, three speed settings that should be done by manual. If the operators are not properly aware, the system, then they will not do these changes and they will continue the operation at high speed, because the operation will continue, but energy is wasted. Most of the cases we see they are either not aware or not encouraged, so that message has not communicated, and finally that investment is not backed by proper benefits. So proper operational planning and communication of those plans should be there. Designing and procurement, those are some other supportive activities that whenever a company design new machine or expand their operations, then each and every phase energy management consideration should be taken uh, properly, uh, because that design that will change entire energy consumption, entire energy picture. So before implementation of new design, energy management team should identify what will going to be changed and how to manage it better way. The designs are accepted, but design should be managed efficiently. Procurement also same, companies copy the purchasing a lot of energy appliance. When purchasing energy appliance, the common behavior is going for low cost options. Once system implemented, they have to consider energy efficient appliance. Simply, they can refer star ratings and select CFO that they're introducing star rating for ceiling fans recently. So they have options in CFL and ceiling fans. LED also they can prefer in and other appliance company can define their own parameters like motors, IE levels can be considered compressors, CMM output per kilowatt hour like that. They can define their own parameters to go for proper energy efficient appliance, and life cycle cost of life cycle should be considered. Yeah. So, two more chapters: performance evaluation, where you evaluate performance again, the design performance. Two way of evaluating performance. One is to evaluate the performance of energy system, that energy implementation performance, that efficiency measurement. Another performance evaluation is ENMS system performance. For energy performance, we do energy review and day-to-day do the measurements, those things. ENMS, we need to do internal audit and check whether all clauses are addressed and all clauses are treated well. Like that, so we do internal audit, and management review is the place where engineering team gathered and discussed how we can do more well. Then final is improvement. Once you after internal audit and energy review, you get more options, new options to improve the system. So you take all these considerations and you continue this PDCA cycle, and ultimately you can get more benefits. That's all for ENMS system documents requirements. Then we can see we know benefits. Mainly we can save energy. That means we can save energy cost. In addition to cost, we can reduce the environment impact like GHG reduction, and also we can reduce noise because.
One, we have lost your voice. Can you check your microphone?
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me now?
I can hear. I can hear you, Rohan.
Can others hear me? Can anyone please?
Yes, everyone, go ahead. It's
Okay.
okay now.
Okay. So benefits we can see that cost benefits, environment benefits, and social benefits. Those are there. Simply we can categorize as them. Then also there are legal benefits because we don't know when the regulatory bodies will impose new regulation for energy like that. So being ready is better. So and also there are for some sectors there are requirements from clients to implement EMMS. So this system will satisfy all these things: energy saving, cost saving, environment saving, and legal and so on. This is one success. We can say all EMMS implementations are success, but one showcase just to share with you. Rubber sector industry, the leading rubber sector industry, who are manufacturing like 2 million kilograms per month solid tire, and they could save 18% of their energy. We cannot say energy consumption, but that energy indicated by 18% within 2 years, from 1.47 kilowatt hour per kilogram to 1.17 kilowatt hour per kilogram, simply by compressor air leak arresting and cooling tower modification to shut down or control their cooling tower fan during low demand period, and insulating press walls, because those are electrical heating systems. They are doing mixing, rolling, calendaring, pressing, curing, and finishing processes. And this is how the energy performance indicator has been changed over to you. And now we'll see the global status of implementing ENMS. Since this is introduced in 2011, I had data only up to 2015, and by 2015, 12,000 industries have been implemented ENMS in their companies. That is not that much big, but I'm sure if we have data after 2015, that should be much higher than the data before, because in 2015 we had the Paris Agreement, and following activities, most of activities are supported by energy saving, energy efficiency. Even SDG 7 is emphasizing energy saving. So the figures after 2015 must be higher than this. Should be like this way. So, but the thing is, implementation has been centralized in Europe countries. 90% of implementations were in Europe, and out of Europe, only 10%. In Germany, leading implementation, followed by UK, France, likewise. So now the question, that's how global status up to 2015. I can say, I can guess that maybe 50,000 by 2020. So can you guess how many industries are certified for ENMS in Sri Lanka by now? Same year, that 2011, it introduced to Sri Lanka, and I could participate for the initial programs as well. And we hope it will be implemented in such a way. Can anyone guess? And you can put to chat box. How many industries? There are 20,000. How many industries are certified for ENMS? Can anyone give it? One person is no. My physically. Yes. These are figures for Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, according to the TDB CCC, there are around 400,000 you can say businesses, and close to 40,000 industrial establishment according to IGB. And out of these 40,000, so far we cannot say the exact number, because we just got through contacting representatives of certification bodies last week. So we can say less than 40 numbers of implementation. And there are 6 certification bodies actually working in EMMS Sri Lanka, not only Sri Lanka, out of 4 in Sri Lanka, 2 from outside of Sri Lanka, because some companies, they are operating only QMS, EMS and other systems. So EMMS, they take reviewers and auditors from outside. So that is one indication. Very less companies have implemented. And other thing, you may know, some of you may know that Ministry of Industry, they are supporting these system certifications, and they are giving grant like 300,000 rupees per company, for implementing either EMMS, EMS, QMS, or food safety system certification. but according to 2020 received applications, they received only 3 applications for EMMS out of 35 applications. At least they again like 1%. So this graph shows how that implemented 40 numbers goes among individual certification bodies. I cannot give the name, but ABCD refers to certification bodies. Only two are actually doing EMMS, others are, if we cannot avoid the, likewise they are doing not, they are following, or they are uh, going, they are doing marketing for EMMS. And we did one industry survey last 2019, end of 2019, covering 200 industrial establishments and 87 companies. There were 25% sector industries like that, and we had many questions, and one question was asking implemented systems. So this is the result. They have 14,000, many 14,000, 9,000. I guess that here we can see it's around 15 out of 200 industries. But here this is a little bit biased because we contacted all of our clients, including our clients. So it is showing a bit higher value than the industry average. So we can discuss why it has not been that much appreciated in industries. We cannot say, we cannot blame any party, or we can just discuss why it has been happened. Some reason may be company, that internal issues, and others may be external issues. I will briefly give some points as per our experience, and also last week some of my colleagues share some experience with me, and also some other certification bodies shared some experience with me. So if you see the company side, they are lack of aware on the benefit of EMMS, and even energy auditors, when they visit practice, they are not much promoting EMMS. Their work is only related to energy audit, and they don't know the long-term benefits of having EMMS, and a limited of human resources, because without having dedicated energy manager, companies cannot continue with the EMMS. They have only engineering department, and engineers are busy with their day-to-day routine work and maintenance work, because that is his role in maintenance. So they are not that much interested on having EMMS, because they think that will be additional workload for them. So actually, what the person I contacted, he said engineers are lazy, but I cannot say lazy because they are busy with their routine work. When finance, yes, these investments for implementing EMMS, because other compared to other systems, QMS or EMS, you need just documentation and just find some documentation showing them, displaying them, like this. But EMMS, you have to have separate energy review. Other than the documentation, that review is costly, and depends on the scope again. But almost same as energy costly. Then technology, we need infrastructure like submeters and measuring points. So we need infrastructure, and metering is always costly, and also not only metering but having systems you need to calibrate depending on the time period. You need to calibrate the equipment, and calibration in Sri Lanka we have some facilities, but it is not enough, and that is not covering all measuring equipment range. In data, most of the that with these effects, we have no enough data. From company side, they are maintaining mainly financial related data, and that is their purpose. So energy systems, we need additional data to finance data. So data, we don't have data at the starting point as we required, but that is not a challenge for consultant, because we can do some of the alternatives for starting, but anyway, from the company side, data is the issue. The visibility, company expects having certification and make some visibility, but this EMMS actually give benefits to company. There's no such a way to display and get more visibility by having EMMS, because QMS you can display in product, and you can say product ability, but actually QMS is for the system, the company, but ultimately it goes as product is quality and 9,000 uncertified like that. EMS also you can display like green and like that, but EMS actually that is for the benefit of company. So less visibility, it should demotivate companies because they are more than the internal, but their benefit they are concentrating on showing off and making visibility. Then external, uh, just I put regulation client because it should be either push method or pull method. Regulations can push ENMS. The countries I showed you, Germany, such countries, the first 5 countries, they have their energy policy and separate component for ENMS implementation. Other countries, most of countries, they don't, their policies are not addressing EMMS such thing. And also EMMS system is a bit young compared to EMS. EMS became 2004 and 7 years later EMMS came. So here it is benefit having EMS, the environment management system, but it's a bit disadvantage having ENMS because again here also it's energy management system. We could have EMS, ENMS became before EMS. EMS they maintain aspect registry and they address part of energy related activities, but with the uh, perception of energy related releases or emissions. They are not considering much efficiency, only the emissions like wastewater, flue gas emissions, surface heat like that. But some people are misled. They think that having an EMS will fulfill the requirement of EMS. Then less client demand. We know that clients the demand for quality and the environment, and especially for food manufacturers, HACCP is highly demanded. But ENMS, rarely clients demand for ENMS, that is, this gives benefits to the company, not to direct client, but it gives benefit to client directly, but direct benefit to the company. Also, let's push from authorities, as I have said. For example, HACCP, sorry, in 2001, demanded by T-Board, Coconut Development Board. So those systems are moving well in sector industries. But for EMS, let's see, I think CB or CBA, we will do more push activities. Then externals, we can consider both clients and certification bodies together. Certification bodies, we observed and we experienced some certification bodies, they are strict on the documentation rather than real performance of EMS system because they are used to evaluate and audit QMS because QMS and EMS. So same auditors come and we experience some cases they going to the documents not the real performance of the image system. And even they are not promoting EMS, they are specialized to performing in QMS and such comfort zones. And if client asks for EMS, then they give some they say it is hard and more documentation, many numbers and calculations. So they are kind of demotivations are there. And consultants we see some consultants are not confident enough to give the full outcome of EMS. So if they go halfway of the EMS system, then the company will disappoint and they think EMS system is failed. So what happens some cases, some companies, they are practicing EMS without certifying. That is also okay. They can get the benefit just until they don't have the certification. That is okay. Not challenge, but it will be an opportunity. And one example, if you search EMS or engineering system or system certification, you can see our government information center GIC is government everything except EMS because that is not much searched so far. Opportunities, as we discussed, all the benefits we can see as opportunities and increase in tariff. We know that CB and they are performing with loss and they are selling electricity at less price than the generation cost. So there will be tariff increasing not only for electricity, even for fuel. And though we have some gaps in the push side, but the government gives support through grants and there are loan schemes, different loan schemes, concession rate loans are given. Long-term plans are supporting the sustainable development goal 7 and machine determined contributions, and reporting notification. Those skills are supporting EMMS. And also there are donor funded projects, EDB funded for 6 companies to implement EMMS, special capacity industries, and EU supporting project is yet coming. And also get benefits to integrated systems like EMS. Some system documents can be shifted to other systems, so integrated benefits can be gained. And trainings are there. Also, you can practice without certifying. And especially this pandemic situation is good. Though it is crisis, we can convert the crisis into an opportunity, because it is good time to understand the real situation of consumption, which goes to the direct production, and also which using the base loads. So that's all, and way forward from industrial perspective, they can start from looking themselves and understanding where they are, and when the managers consults, they can promote EMMS, and they can be trained, they can become competent, and they can promote EMMS. System certifiers can be more flexible, because the system will be different compared to other systems, and rather than just looking documentation, they can focus on actual energy performance and regulatory bodies. They can even long term they can push EMMS to do better. So that's all from my side. So now we can open the forum for discussion. And thank you, especially till you raise your questions. I must say thanks for Sina for giving this opportunity, and also my colleagues who shared their experience. So thank you. And one question from Mr. Prasan. Major changes to 2018 compared to 2011. 2011, there were six chapters, and chapters clauses have been increased to 10. And 2011, requirement for energy management representatives was there. Now that is not mandatory requirement to having energy management representatives, because those are for QMS and EMS requirements. And here key change is leaders are given more responsibility, and most of that terms are clearly defined. Some were much difficult to understand in 2011 version, but here it is more clear, and this is more and more result oriented. And so more support is given in especially 2018 version compared to 2011. And if you see both documents, you can see it is easily understandable 2018 version.
If you have any verbal questions, you can raise hand. I can make the people, they can speak. If you raise your hand, I can allow you to speak if you have any verbal questions. Any questions from the panelists? Mr. Chamila Delpitia, Rasika Gamage, any questions to Mr. Ruan Jeman?
No.
Yeah, Ruan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Rasika, yeah. Actually, what I see the major drawback is the other industries actually plan for their strategic plan for 2 to 3 years generally, because if we go for major implementations like replacements, it will cost more. Actually, it can't afford that much of investment within a shorter period. It might take 4 or 5 years in recovery. Actually, we also, as Sri Lankan Airlines, we also plan several replacements. Generally, the management and the finance is looking for 2-year recovery. It cannot be done in any of the investments. I see that's a major drawback in implementations of energy management systems in the industry. Do you have any idea on that one?
Yes. Thank you for that question. And if you see such demand from top management, then the answer is implementing ENMS, because ENMS doesn't have any requirement for having high investment or likewise. First, we implement low cost, because in any energy application, energy consumption utility, we can see there are opportunities to reduce energy consumption or improve efficiency by simply changing the controls. There are many opportunities. We see that housekeeping level opportunities and operational control level opportunities. Those are not that much. Those not need that much investment. Most of the cases where we implemented ENMS, first year we could reach at least minimum 5% saving by implementing those low cost options. Investment grade options, again, having system is support to investment grade options, because it compare multiple options with not only from the initial investment, but compare based on life cycle cost, that including operational cost, operation accessories, discard cost. So comparing life cycle cost, then it's easy to decide what should be the option. This system not only to being certified, but even without certifying, we can implement system components like let's say if you take design part, it's guide you to how to select a design. So in such situation, you have high investment project, then those components can be taken and compare easily. That will lead you to the best selection. Anyway, the, if the implementation, yeah, simple payback period varies depend on the implementation, and also benefits are varying. So such cases also you can use that marginal abatement cost curve, where you can clearly see the difference of each option to other options. Likewise, we can use tools to compare options, but we cannot drastically change the simple payback period, because when our implementation is long life, it goes for 20 years, then payback will be 4 year, 5 year, but over the lifetime we get some gain. But apart from all these investment grade options, there are plenty of options in almost all industries, even where we think they are as a high efficient and modern industries, still we see many opportunities simply by changing housekeeping patterns and operational controls.
Okay, thank you, Ruan. There is another question in the Q&A box. Can you have a look at it?
Yes, one asked, can any organization obtain ISO standard? Any barriers or limitations for small organizations? Even small organizations can obtain ISO certification 1. No any barriers or limitations. Only thing, before any energy related activity, we simply calculate energy intensity. We check our cost of energy compared with total cost of operation. If that is simple, anyone can calculate that. Then if the energy intensity is higher than, let's say, 5%, then it is worth to invest on energy systems. Otherwise, if your company is not energy intensive, or your cost of energy is not that much sizable compared to total operational cost, then it's very hard to convince top management and get the attention and time investment of other people for implementing this system. So the thing is to at the starting point, check the energy intensity, just simply dividing cost of energy by total cost of operation. If your energy intensity is high, then there are a lot of opportunities, not only for energy management system, even energy audit, other simple parts of energy system can be implemented. Then easy to convince top management and get the involvement of all parties. And thank you for your question.
Mr. Nimal Pereira is requesting ability to speak. So, Mr. Nimal Pereira, you can ask your question.
Yeah, it's basically rather than a question than a comment. What Ruan said is fairly true, but in front of the other the standards or the other standard systems like 9,000, 14,000, or maybe 22,000 and others. The most difficult part of the ENMS or IS 50001 ENMS is the performance based criteria. Because let's say if you define let's say for the particular year, if you year or a particular scope of period, if you define let's say a 10% performance, if you are proposed, and you have to in figures you have to assure it, or you have to make those performances in figure, not like the other cases. Therefore, it's not like the qualitative achievements. The quantitative achievements in energy management system is a must. Otherwise, you will be failed. So this is the most significant difference between the other standards, other quality standards, and energy management system standard guidelines. So therefore, that is one of the main reasons. And as one correctly mentioned, most of the industries who achieved ISO 14,000 are fairly, they have addressed the issue of the energy management with the perspective of the resource conservation. Because ultimately, what you are planning to achieve through the ISO 50001 is also again a resource conservation and resource conservation. But here, if you really understand the value of ISO 50000, because if I'm not making a mistake, this standard preparation was started somewhere in 2003. During that period, the catalytic pressure for them to, especially this one was defined with the support of UNIDO and the Italian government and ISO together. So when they were defining this, their main concern was to address the climate change, because the climate change is the main catalytic need, or a kind of a pushing need for the addressing this energy efficiency and the energy management. But unfortunately, still it has been well recognized by the countries like European countries like Germany. So that's why one of the main reason they have achieved very much higher score in number of organizations they certified with ISO 50001. So because they have really committed to achieve this one, and then coupled with the GHG reduction or the greenhouse gas reduction, it's not only for the industry sector, and even they have taken this one up to the transport sector as well. But in country like Sri Lanka, still we are struggling with to get the participation of the industry. Even it has become a kind of a difficulty. So I think from my perspective, what I feel is SLSCA, Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority, has a major role to play in bringing this one into the top, and then making more and more achievement. Because if you really achieve the ISO 50001 certification for organization, that is a very well committed kind of energy efficiency improvement kind of a practice for them. So therefore, those are the values. So I think the SLSCA have a lot of opportunities to bring this one into the top. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment and agree.
Thank you, Rimal, for your comment. And from the Sustainable Energy Authority aspect, we take your recommendation wholeheartedly. And the upcoming energy benchmark regulation is, I think, a step in the right direction. But we have not yet thought about how to integrate the two systems, our local benchmark regulation with the energy management systems, ISO 50001. I think that is a possible way not to reinvent the wheel, but to work with the system. So our purposes are also served.
One particular point I want to, can you hear me?
Yes,
Harsha?
yes, yes.
One particular point I want to highlight, even I think when we were developing the energy auditors, especially the energy auditor, past energy auditor training program, I was seriously highlighting this issue, especially the energy auditors when they visit to the organization, to bring this one to their notice and then give a kind of a recommendation. Always don't try to stop only with the
We can't
energy.
hear you, Nimal.
Can
No,
you
no.
can
Yeah,
you
go on. Can hear. I think
right,
others also.
right. The issue is actually the energy auditor. Normally, when because I have very seriously highlighted this one during our energy auditor training program as well. Almost all of our past energy auditor training programs. So it's a kind of a responsibility of the energy auditor or a energy audit proposing organization to give a recommendation to the particular the client organization not to stop from that point and but take the ISO 50001 as well and then continue with that energy auditor kind of an energy audit implementation plan as a continuation of their effort. So that will be the value